Hello there. This is a little shocking. Obi-Wan Kenobi Season 2 gets major update 3 years after Season 1 ended. Years after Obi-Wan Kenobi's run on Disney+, there may be news on whether the show will get more episodes. The new rumor indicated that a second season of Obi-Wan Kenobi is now in development for Lucasfilm. Obi-Wan was originally billed as a limited series for Lucasfilm, giving star Ewan McGregor another chance to portray the character he made famous in the Star Wars prequel trilogy. However, that status may be in line to change, with Lucasfilm Star Wars hoping to bring another massive hit to Disney+. While the rumor was shared by Pooper Scooper Daniel RPK, he gave no signs of when Obi-Wan Kenobi's second season could go into production or when it would be released on Disney+. There's also no news about who would be included in the cast or what the storyline for this potential season 2 would be, both of which are more likely to become public once the new season is made official. Also, important to note that Obi-Wan Kenobi's second season has no guarantee of going into production, as many Disney-era Star Wars projects have gone into development but not been fully realized. Multiple big-screen efforts Lucasfilm has taken off the board in the last couple of years, and with the constant changes in what's coming to Disney+, there are no guarantees the fans will see Obi-Wan back in his solo series again. That's the news. A lot of speculation in this article, but that's the news. Daniel RPK is reporting that Obi-Wan Kenobi season number 2 going into production. First off, do I believe this? I guess is the main question.
Yes.
Yes, I do believe this, and I want to explain why. You see, I have been told that Ewan McGregor will be in Ahsoka season 2. He's going to be doing something pretty interesting in Ahsoka season 2. And so I believe a season 2 of Kenobi could be in line. Here's the deal, man. In a lot of ways, I thought Kenobi was a monumental failure. It was super embarrassing to Star Wars fans. And I think it was really bad for the characters and the actors, okay? But then something kind of incredible happened. And what I'm talking about is Ahsoka Season 2, or Ahsoka Season 1. Now, obviously, I like Ahsoka Season 1. The ending was pretty bad, but I still like it overall. But that Episode 5, when Hayden officially returned to Star Wars canon, was amazing. And it was huge. It blew up on social media. And what we came to find out was that Dave brings Hayden into Ahsoka in a way to make up for what happened in Kenobi. And the interpretation, the presentation of Anakin Skywalker in Ahsoka was so much better than what it was in the Kenobi show. And there was a lot more collaboration between Hayden and Dave. And he just had like an environment of people that like truly understood the character, gave him a lot of shine. I think that's a completely fair take. I think that's just like obvious, right?
Oh, brother!
Now, going back to Ahsoka Season 2, Hayden Christensen is going to be in Ahsoka Season 2. I think he's going to be, or rather, Ewan McGregor is going to be in Ahsoka Season 2. And I think that's great. I would expect this is connected to Abeloth, Force Ghost, Cosmic Force, really trippy, crazy ideas that Dave wants to play around with in Ahsoka Season 2, because they're going ham on the Jedi, the Ones, Abeloth, all that sort of stuff. From what I understand, they're going hard on that. And Obi-Wan being there in some way is fascinating. Okay? So you can already see that you're getting a little bit of the same way that Hayden got sort of more gusto, more proper build-up, actual respect to the character in Ahsoka. You're going to get that in Ahsoka Season 2 with Kenobi. But I gotta say, if they really, really want to do justice for these characters, I do think you need another season of Kenobi. But it needs to be so completely different. Look, couple of really interesting things going on here. We are at a place now where Kathy's kind of on the way out, right? Dave is obviously CCO. A lot of all of the stuff I just described happens partially because Dave is the showrunner, but it also happens because he is CCO. So Dave can now come into a meeting with all the executives and explain that from his perspective as CCO, certain things you would call assets. They're like Kenobi's a character, he's an asset to the company. Anakin's an asset to the company. These things need to put on the shelf in the right way so that they continue to bring value in for Lucasfilm and Disney. So he can actually make a business argument as to why these characters need to come back and be put on a better shelf. He can actually make a business argument as to why you need a second season of Kenobi, okay? And from there, obviously the question would be, well, what would a second season of Kenobi be like? He's obviously on Tatooine. It would be so weird if he just left Tatooine again. I mean, I suppose he could, right? But highly unlikely that he would just leave Tatooine again after finally, ending the threat, making sure that Luke was okay and watching over him, right? So it's probably unlikely that that would be happening. But I want you to consider the ending of the Kenobi show, and I want you to consider the rumors I'm telling you about Ahsoka Season 2. The last thing that happens in the Kenobi show to the Kenobi character is that he is finally actually talking to Qui-Gon. Qui-Gon Jinn, his former master, is there in Force Ghost form, by the way, which is not... That's a retcon. That was not what happened in the old Star Wars lore, right? Qui-Gon could never fully materialize other than on the planet with those godlike entities that Yoda messes with at the very end of the Clone Wars series before it got brought back by Disney. Qui-Gon was never able to manifest in any Force Ghost form. He could speak, but he could never form. So that's kind of interesting in and of itself. Why was he in Force Ghost form at the end of that series? That's kind of interesting. Okay. And on Mortis. Yes. So quite interesting that that's what's going on. Well, if you consider what is a Force Ghost, by the way? You know what I mean? Like, what is a Force Ghost, right? Well, a Force Ghost is a Jedi whose consciousness is able to return from death. Okay. Now, in the old lore, which I'm not sure how much this has been retconned, in the old lore, Qui-Gon is taught this by a shaman of the wills, not a Jedi. Okay. So Qui-Gon is taught this by a shaman of the wills. Who the wills? Well, the wills were cosmic entities far beyond anything we've currently seen in the Star Wars universe or galaxy. They might be those Force priestesses from the end of Clone Wars with Yoda. And the shaman of the wills are people that we have seen in Star Wars in Rogue One. So in Rogue One, the two characters, the Don Yen and the other dude, the two Asian characters that they find on Jedha, those are former shaman of the will. So they didn't study the Jedi code; they studied the shaman of the will. And from what I understand, it's just like a different interpretation. It's almost like different martial artists. And the way that martial artists like interpret combat and have different systems of belief, maybe meridians of energy on the body, et cetera, right? So you end the show with Kenobi exploring the nature of the Force with his former master, who has returned from death due to his teaching from a shaman of the will. And that's the last thing you get. And we know that the next time you'll see Kenobi will be in Ahsoka Season 2, where he is somehow connected to Force Ghosts and the greater nature of the cosmic force. Wow. Well, what does that mean then? Well, it likely means that if there is a Season 2 of Kenobi, it could end up being real trippy. Now, there's other stuff that goes on in this time period, like Kenobi fights against Jabba and some of the Hutt gangsters. He fights against that one big Wookiee that was like a bounty hunter. I forget his name. So there's like stuff in the comics that's kind of established with Kenobi there. So maybe some of that could be added into it. So maybe you have like an A plot and a B plot in Kenobi Season 2. And the A plot... Black Kirsten, yeah. So maybe the A plot is Obi-Wan and Qui-Gon going into different fucking dimensions and exploring the nature of the Force in like a really trippy fucking way, like a little bit a la Ahsoka and some of the stuff they're doing there. And then the B plot is like Kenobi also trying to keep the peace, keep Luke safe, help out a little bit on Tatooine and something like that. I think that could be interesting. To me, that's the way I would take it. And other than that, I can't really see a story that would make sense and that would be good, right? So that's kind of what I think is going on. I want to add to this, okay? And I want to get real fucking conspiratorial, okay? Now, you guys brought this up on the Discord earlier, but one of the things that was just released in the last couple of weeks is there's a big galactic map that Star Wars has officially released that is completely canon. It is incredibly extensive. And there is a reveal in there that makes people believe that the Rakatan Empire will be explored in the James Mangold Star Wars film. The reason is because it is revealed that the Rakatan homeworld is actually really close to Ahch-To and another planet. Just walk with me on this. We're going to get a little weird. We're going to get a little weird here. Just walk with me on this, okay? The new map of the Star Wars galaxy features Rakata Prime, the homeworld of the ancient Rakata species who were once conquered the galaxy 25,000 years prior to the original trilogy. Remember that number, 25,000 years. Rakata Prime is located very close to Jedha and Ahch-To, two planets we've seen in the new movies. James Mangold's Dawn of the Jedi movie, which will depict the beginning of the Jedi Order, will likely feature Ahch-To and takes place 25,000 years ago. It seems more and more likely we'll get the Rakata in the Dawn of the Jedi. Now, a couple other things I want to say here. Number one, we did get the Rakata Easter egg in Andor. I haven't watched Andor, but somebody pointed that out to me. I saw the clip. I was like, oh, that's pretty cool. Tony Gilroy admitted that was not him. Probably was Dave. Okay? Now, keep walking with me. Keep walking with me here, okay? A couple of years ago at Star Wars Celebration, Disney came out and actually surprised me. They actually had a plan for Star Wars movies. I didn't think they would. And the three movies they talked about were the Rey movie, the New Jedi Order with Charmaine Obed-Chinoy. Then you had the Dave Filoni movie, which was rumored to be like an Heir to the Empire kind of thing. And then you had this film here with James Mangold, which was going to go 25,000 years ago, and it was going to establish the beginning of the Jedi, okay? But if you remember, a lot of the language they had then, and a lot of what they kept saying in like the interviews and stuff, was that all three of these films would be actually connected to the Jedi. And so you'd go back 25,000 years, you'd get the first Jedi, like what was that like? Then you'd get how the new Jedi Order was going to be developed and how that was going to work. And then you were going to get a little bit of what the Force and the Jedi was happening before we get into the sequel trilogy. Now, this was right when Dave, as CCO, was like really getting cooking. And so I would imagine he had a lot to do with establishing this plan. And I think that's why he puts the Easter egg into Andor. And what else do we know? We know that he was actually cooking shit with Abeloth and potentially with the Rakatan Empire as well in Ahsoka. About 3 years ago, Dave, as CCO, starts cooking this plan for the future of Star Wars. And I think one of the things he wanted to do was recontextualize the Force and the Jedi. And a great way to do that would be to tackle that exact idea in 3 separate time periods and kind of loosely bring them all together. When I think of Dave's sort of grand ideas, how a lot of these projects were put together, the different ideas that they were looking to explore, I think it's quite interesting that Ahsoka Season 2 seems to be exploring Force Ghost, Kenobi. I've heard Qui-Gon Jinn is in that thing. Like, dude, that's going to get pretty crazy. Then you consider this potential Season 2 of Kenobi as Dave is getting more and more power and kind of like, you know, forging out what the future of this whole thing would look like. I think what he's going to do is establish Abeloth and potentially the Ones as this thing that destroyed the Rakatan Empire, fucking threw off all the balance in the galaxy. The true enemy of the Jedi has kind of always been Abeloth, who may have been manipulating all of the events of all of the things that we've witnessed. And that means that whatever they do next, which is like, please God, don't let it be Rey. Like, let's just move on to other characters or whatever. But whatever they do next could be treated as something like a consolidation of all the conflict that has ever happened in the entire Star Wars galaxy from the beginning of time till now. And that's really fucking cool, dude. Like, that's a cool idea.